Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Rule 34 podcast. I'm your host, Jack, joined by my guest,
Mr. Solis.
All right, so we're back. How have you been, sir? It's been quite a while since we've seen each other.
It has. It's been since Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, back in February.
Goodness. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I've got one dose of the vaccine in me, one to go, and I'm scheduled for that to happen April 2nd.
That's good to hear. I believe my mom and the two grandmas have also gotten their shots as well, and I believe one of my grandmas has gotten both, and my mom and her mom are waiting for their second dose soon.
Right on. My mom and dad are scheduled for April 1st, and my mom told me this weekend that I have an aunt, her sister, she's gotten both. She got it in her dialysis, she goes to dialysis weekly, and they set her up there. And I was really grateful to hear that was something that they did.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that, especially a lot of the older people are able to get it soon, and that they're letting a lot of essential workers get it as well,
Mm-hmm.
And, just here's to hoping that we can return to a normal life, at least by summer, is what I'm
That'd be
optimistic
nice.
for.
You'll enjoy this, Jack. I got mine at Roybal.
Oh, really?
School right down the street from Tajima. It's an LAUSD school, and Alliance, a school network that you and I are both very acquainted with, it falls under the umbrella of LAUSD. So I was, everyone was invited to participate in that. It set up an appointment, and I felt like such an interloper, But no, everyone was super sweet. Everyone was really nice and cordial and welcoming and professional. But it always weirds me out to be on an LAUSD campus.
Yeah, it especially weirds me out when I go to Hawaii, because I also the main thing I do is I look and I go, man, it's a good thing I went to the school I did, because I probably would have gotten lost in these big schools. Because as crowded as they were, I always liked the fact that it was just simple and coordinated as to what floor was for what classes.
This is true.
I got lost on my sophomore year and my junior year.
You could argue his campus was smaller, and yet somehow he still got lost.
I was just about to say, what is he talking about?
I got lost.
There were 8 rooms total.
Not junior.
They were on the same
year,
side
sir.
of the building.
Not junior or senior year, sir. Junior year.
Okay, yeah, we had grown. We had grown to a strong and powerful 10 rooms.
I remember senior year, I was with Brian Hernandez, and we were looking for Miss Saya's government class, and I went around 2 times around the building just to figure out it was your old room, I believe.
Sure. To say you went around it 2 times is like saying I walk around my apartment and I do 2 laps.
But
good times.
But so we're here today to talk about the
March Madness, right, Jack? It is underway. There have been some bracket buster games.
Well, I would argue that similarly, this time of the month for wrestling fans is supposed to feel like March Madness, in the sense that we're building towards WrestleMania. But as I told my dad, because I almost forgot that this was going down Sunday, there's been such little build for Mania and even Fastlane that I was like, it doesn't feel like Mania season.
It's very true, Jack. I wonder if it has to do with the recent reports that have come out saying that Vince McMahon is becoming irate at wrestlers not being really careful with COVID and safety regulations.
Yeah, and it's funny because, the big one that got hurt by that was NXT that week, because they had to pull a bunch of their matches, but yet also that week of NXT was also really good with the changes they had to make, with somewhat late notice. But yeah, I've definitely heard, because I know it's difficult to build to Mania right now when, a lot of people you want as challengers aren't being there,
Right. So how could you build a match? How could you promise somebody's going to be there when they just might not?
Yeah.
Crazy.
And there's no telling of when, a potential person you have can get pulled any moment. for example, like with Charlotte, it was seeming like Charlotte was going to be built to be Asuka's opponent at Mania. Suddenly, she has COVID, and so now she's off screens for 2 weeks. Anyone she might have been in contact with is off for 2 weeks. So, I definitely do think that's a big contributor to the Fastlane.
Another reason, too, Jack, that I've heard people say online on YouTube, another reason that they attribute not feeling like a WrestleMania season is because we're in Fastlane season. And how frustrating is it that we're building to this weird show for the sake of having a show? In the past, for a long time, it wasn't an issue to go from that February pay-per-view to WrestleMania.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about at length, how, just these in-between pay-per-views almost seem pointless,
Mm-hmm.
And it was similar with Fastlane because, as I told my dad, I was like, other than a couple matches, it felt like, just a normal episode of Raw and SmackDown, aside from the really good matches that were on the card. But, like, it was like the first half it felt like an episode of Raw and SmackDown, but the second half kind of felt like that pay-per-view type feel.
I have also heard people, describe the second half more favorably than the first half.
Yeah.
And on top of it, you and I think both have had a warm introduction to Peacock.
Not yet for me.
My account expired. I suppose it was the case that it would have renewed automatically, but because of this change, when I went to the WWE Network, there was a message saying, "Oops, looks like you should be going to Peacock, sir." And I went, "What?" So it said, your account's expired. If you want to continue enjoying this programming, download today.
I think because for me, I had gotten the 3-month card back for Elimination Chamber. And so I think it's continuing until, that Mania week.
Got it.
Yeah.
Right on.
Any issues occur when you were using Peacock?
I had a really funny up and down experience that I thought you'd enjoy. Ready? So I'm going to call them sort of ups and downs. Down, the fact that my subscription expired and I needed to deal with this. I thought I had more time. Up, it was an easy download. Down, you get access to some things, not everything. Oh, you do want to watch WWE Fastlane? Then you're going to have to subscribe, $4.99. Up, the replay, because I didn't see this thing live, Jack. I had to see it later on Sunday. So the thing had already happened. I was avoiding Instagram. About 8 o'clock, the replay was available and on the home screen. The first sort of thing on that banner was Drew McIntyre with his Claymore, and it said Fastlane, and it was easy. And get this, it had the pre-show built into it, so I watched it too.
Okay. Any issues with, like, the playback?
I wondered if there was a difference in video quality. I don't know if I by now had already sort of developed this bias, and I was looking for reasons to not like it, because Charlie Caruso is no longer in the WWE, and she wasn't on the kickoff show, and that upset me. Kayla Braxton, I had already read all the things about Charlie's unceremonious exit. But really, no, the playback went fine, really.
Yeah, okay.
I've heard people describe that when they want to see a specific show, they haven't figured out cataloging. So there's a ton of things like alphabetized, you know what I mean? The things that are impossible to find, where you might click a year, click a show, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that apparently is not yet figured out.
Yeah, that's my biggest issue is that they didn't have it figured out at launch.
Yeah.
Because they said in previous reports, not even everything's going to be available at launch.
But you're not going to watch Yokozuna's Legacy, not yet.
Well, you mentioned that you watched the pre-show. What did you think about the Ali Riddle match, if you got to watch it?
I thought it was good. I thought Ali looked strong. And I'm into how it ended.
Yeah, and, I said it was like a really good match, and obviously, like, at the time, seeing the rest of the matches on the card, I was like, okay, it makes sense to put this on the pre-show. But after, like I said, after watching the show, I was like, man, I would have rathered one of the other matches be on the pre-show and this be on the main card.
I dig it. I get you. Did you see it?
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. And the ending, it's something that a lot of people have wanted for a long time, but Retribution turned on Ali finally.
Yes, they did. What's her name? Reckoning?
Yeah.
She left Mustafa Ali, just walked out of the ring, then Slapjack, after being berated by Ali, after he lost. I guess because they didn't interfere in his for him, I guess. Yeah. They let him down. There's a lot of miscommunications in that group. Anyway, the two biggest members are left in the ring. He's running them down. And what do they do, Jack?
They double choke slam Ali.
Goodness gracious. Seeing the two of them do that, because I don't watch Raw, this is really the first time I've seen them be that aggressive and that coordinated. They reminded me of the two monsters that Shredder bred in the first Ninja Turtle movie. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The two monsters that everyone wished were Bebop and Rocksteady, but they weren't.
Yeah.
They were like this giant mutated turtle and this giant mutated fox thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know if you heard it, but Ollie's yelling at them at the sideline, saying, you see that? You see what I just did? Showing them how it's done. And it's weird that, like, T-Bar talks in, like, a Batman voice,
Yeah.
He's like, well, show us then. In a really unnatural way.
Yeah. So if any of the listeners remember our end of the year list, for our favorite matches of the year last year, you'll know that with this, I'm excited to see the return of Dominik Dijakovic based on what my number one match was last year,
That's right.
I'm excited to see the return of the man. And I mean, I wasn't upset with the gimmick, of this whole Retribution thing, because, there was some, like, flaws in it, but, it was a testing sort of thing for all these people, and now, it's you don't know what's going to happen. I was telling my dad, because we were trying to think, well, are they going to send some of them back to NXT, or are they just going to let them go back to their old characters? And the one thing I mentioned was, out of all the ones that I think would stay if they plan to just send them back to NXT, the one I think would stay would be Mia Yim, just because with how stacked NXT's women division is right now, with a lot of women still waiting to debut.
Shuffle, eh?
Yeah, she'd get real lost, whereas Raw needs, at least a woman with a set, character and already somewhat known by a group of fans, But I'm excited to see the return of her and Dominik Dijakovic.
Don't be surprised if Dominik Dijakovic and Mace, Dio Madden, if they stay a tag team, a formidable tag team, perhaps, that they certainly could use a tag team that is imposing and successful.
Yeah, especially because if you do plan to put the titles on Styles and Omos, you could do like a whole big man thing right there with the two of them versus Omos.
Sure. I think Slapjack should stay Slapjack.
I think that too, because if you really think about it, when he's not in a tag team, Shane Thorne kind of struggles a bit with having
he does.
a type of character.
Mask on him.
Yeah, so I mean, if he stays like that, at least he has a decent character and can.
There's a lot of meme potential there.
Yeah,
in the age of the internet, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people see it as a bad thing, but I mean, at least they're getting TV time with it. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see him in with R-Truth in a 24/7 title hunt.
But there you go, Jack. That's our pre-show covered.
And so now the main card, we start off with Banks and Belair versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler for the women's tag titles.
Wait, Jack, I'm sorry. I thought we were covering Fastlane, not Elimination Chamber.
I know, right? What are they doing here? And not only that, we're about 3 weeks from Mania. Why do we have the challenger and champion as a tag team? Instead of building a feud between the two of them.
Well, guess what, Jack? I heard the announcers make a really good reference I needed them to make so that any of this made sense. But you might recall, prior to their big main event match at WrestleMania 23, actually John Cena and Shawn Michaels were reigning tag team champions.
Yes, I heard them bring that up, and I was like, okay, at least they're trying to show that that's kind of the story they're going with.
Kinda, except not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, Jack, this is such a frustrating match to start the night because you had two sides of the ring, both of them kind of playing up the can we get along, can we work together kind of angle.
Yeah, you had Jax and Baszler kind of being iffy with one another because of the whole antics that had gone down apparently on SmackDown. Then you had Banks and Belair kind of, looking like they were about to implode.
Yeah, because they're future opponents. At some point, it's going to boil over.
Yeah.
And then you also have Reginald.
And then you have Reginald.
Carmella Sommelier, who has somehow been passed around and is now in possession of is in the possession of Nia Jax.
Very confusing, if I'm being honest, especially not keeping up with the weekly shows.
Yeah, for sure. There's some gaps there. But what did you think of this match?
I thought it was pretty good. Nothing too memorable from it, which is why, it was one of the matches I thought Ali versus Riddle could have replaced. And while it was a good match, it's, in my opinion, it's kind of hindering or at least the potential of the Banks Belair storyline.
Yeah.
It could have simply just been between the two of them, but they got the women's tag team involved and stuff, and then, the ending angle, I guess you're supposed to assume Sasha is turning heel with the way she, slaps Belair and calls her rookie constantly.
Frustrating. Even more so, let's describe the finish. Banks has Shayna in the bank statement.
Mm-hmm.
Finishing hold, stretching her neck out on the ground. Bianca tries to hold off Nia Jax from breaking up the submission. Nia Jax instead pushes Bianca Belair into the Banks-Shayna combo, effectively breaking up the submission with her body.
Mm-hmm.
And Sasha gets all up in Bianca's face about how could you do that? I had the match won. But everything I just described, Jack, was in plain view of Sasha.
Exactly.
It wasn't a surprise. It wasn't a misunderstanding. She saw Nia push Bianca into her. But she's going to get up and claim fault on Bianca Belair.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
Are we sure it's a heel turn? Because aren't the baby faces supposed to be done?
And, I mean, it makes sense if you want to go heel turn for Sasha, because, a lot of the time she does her best work as a heel. But, I don't know. This story... When Bianca won the Rumble and people were pitching for her to go against Sasha, it seemed like an obvious night one or two, mainly night one main event.
Uh-huh.
But now, as you see, a lot of people are kind of mad that it isn't going to be the night one main event, and I can understand why it isn't, and it's because, like I said, the storyline so far has kind of fell flat.
I can't imagine this being the main event with Roman at one helm, and I guess you could maybe put it over the WWE title nonsense. But that would have been a stretch.
Yeah.
For this one to be that.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's going to be difficult to see where we go here. Especially,
You know what else is frustrating? Calling a woman a rookie, even though she's definitely wrestled for more than a year on TV, including NXT.
yeah.
It's a gross use of the phrase or the word.
Yeah.
Rookie.
Do you think Banks loses at Mania?
Do I think Banks loses at Mania? Yeah, we got to set up our Rhea Ripley Bianca Belair celebration like we talked about.
Yeah. See, my only thing is, again, it's the whole thing of like, and again, it wouldn't surprise me if WWE just goes against it because, you know, they love kind of receiving fan backlash because they don't really care. But, you know, a lot of fans are saying, oh, Sasha should retain because she's always lost at Mania. And my thing is, okay, it's not like she's been in the business, or at least been in like WWE for like 15 years and hasn't won a Mania. It's only been like 5 or so Manias, so what?
Shawn Michaels lost at more WrestleManias than he won.
Exactly, you know.
There you go.
So yeah, I'm excited to hopefully, as we talked about before, see Ripley and Belair be the 2 title holders at the end of it all.
Agreed.
Then we move on to our next match, which my main issue with it is I felt like we've seen it too much, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like my issue isn't like seeing a bunch of match or seeing the same match over and over, because as we see later on with Rollins and Nakamura, the matches happened before, but they're still able to put on a pretty good match, you know, despite happening before. But the issue that happens commonly, especially now, is the match happens too often within too little of a time frame.
Yeah.
You know, where we see it happen almost every week on TV, and then it's like, well, how are you supposed to be hyped for the pay-per-view match when you've already seen it like a couple times on TV?
Even in the build-up, in the hype package, Big E tells Apollo Crews, I've beaten you twice already. It's like they're very much so recognizing how often this match has happened.
Yeah, and I actually liked the promo package. I thought, like, based off of watching the promo package, I thought this should have been saved for Mania, you know, and given more build-up and given more separation so that, you know, it's felt like longer since we've last seen the match.
Yeah, Jack, I'm not going to lie. The video production department in the WWE is probably its greatest asset.
Yeah.
Goodness, have you ever stopped and thought about the greatness they pull from the sweaty hot garbage that is that weekly television?
Yeah. Oh man, just it was like with the whole Roman Drew one, where, you know, they obviously the segments were good, but like it didn't seem like there was that much to do for like the build up, and yet they came up with this amazing package for it right before the match, and that's how I felt with this one, where I was like, man, it feels like I've seen this so many times. Like the package, I was like, man, if they had saved this for Mania, I would have been hyped for the match.
Not to derail us from this match that we've seen twice before, but another video package that like blows the build out of the water, makes you again feel like, hey, are we at Fastlane or are we at Wrestle Kingdom? Goodness gracious, is the Sheamus Drew video package.
That promo package as well was really good.
Yeah. Like, they've done that, like, we've been friends for a long time shtick with other wrestlers. This one has me thinking, oh, this has been building for 2 decades. I took the bait, Jack.
You ready for a similar package to pop up at NXT Stand and Deliver with Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole?
There it is. That's what it's going to be, too. Yeah, lots of pictures of ROH, PWG.
But so the match between, obviously it's the Intercontinental title match, Big E champion versus challenger Apollo Crews.
You know what, Jack? This isn't the same match because this isn't the same Apollo Crews. This is the real Apollo Crews.
Yes, this is Apollo embracing his Nigerian heritage.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I kind of, like, the one thing that was different was the way the match started, because it kind of showed this shift, where both Biggie got serious and Apollo got serious, because the match was very aggressive from the start. Biggie immediately went for his ringside spear, through the ropes, and like they were just both going at it. They were both really getting offensive.
I guess they were, but really, Big E was manhandling Apollo Crews for the first half of this match.
Yeah,
berating him in between splashes on the apron and saying, "You begged for this." It was so good. That was so good.
Yeah, and like I was really enjoying the match, but one thing was it kind of felt like it ended too soon, and also that ending was just so confusing.
Yeah, tell me about why it was so confusing.
So you see Apollo go for the roll up, and then it looks like Biggie changes the momentum, but then it looks like Apollo changes the momentum again, and then you see like essentially it looks like both men's shoulders are down, and the ref just counts to 3, and then even commentary was confused because they were like, well, it looked like Apollo had Biggie down, but then they're saying Biggie won.
Yeah, so I picked up on it too. I thought it really hampered the match that was going pretty well.
Yeah.
But I guess, like, if one were to create their own headcanon, both men's shoulders were down, tie goes to the champ.
Yeah. Similar to Punk versus Cena at Night of Champions back in the day.
Yes,
where they did the suplex spot, and because, like, Cena's shoulders were down as well, Ty went to CM Punk.
There you go. And so, in response to that, we're kind of assured that Big E is the winner because Apollo doesn't fight back or argue that something went wrong. He just starts beating up Big E.
Yeah.
The match is well over, but heel's got to heel.
Yeah. And I will admit that ending spot, like, while it is justified for Cruz to get annoyed, it did kind of annoy me because it was like, this match again?
Oh gosh!
Cause especially think about it, they're gonna run it back at Mania. So going back to my first point with the promo package, why even run it at Fastlane if you're gonna run it again at Mania 3 weeks later?
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah.
Should have just saved it for Mania.
Oh man!
And speaking of saving matches for Mania, we were building up for apparently a match between Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon, but apparently while warming up, Shane McMahon hurt himself, and so while he's walking out, he has like ice on his knee, and he's using crutches. Elias comes up to him trying to pitch to get a performance from Elias at WrestleMania in front of the limited capacity crowd and stuff, and instead they go out to the Thunderdome to do a performance, and then that's when Shane lets him know, you're taking my spot in this match against Braun Strowman.
Right. And I want to sort of fast forward, you know what I mean, into the future, Jack. We'll come back to the match, Elias versus Braun Strowman, but I need to call out the lies. They're lies, Jack. This guy didn't hurt himself training. How do I know? Because as of Monday, yesterday, Jack, what match was declared official for WrestleMania?
Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon.
You can't think that old man, that's what he is now, the old man is going to get over any kind of leg injury in 3 weeks.
And not only that, Shane was the one that accepted it. He himself accepted it.
Yeah, he didn't say, hey, man, I'm on crutches. No. So, even on Sunday, this was super frustrating, too.
And what makes it funnier is the next day on Raw, Elias then again goes against Strowman.
Really?
Yeah, I saw that they had a rematch.
A rematch. They hardly had a match because this was squashness.
Yeah, I just felt it was really pointless. I guess it was like a little break, but like it didn't help, fight against the fact that the first half was really, really like building up to be kind of dull.
Right. You think they're making Braun look strong, which is funny to say out loud? because he's 7 feet tall and 7 feet wide.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
a win over Elias doesn't mean anything to anybody, but you can kind of see the logic there.
Yeah. Gotta make him build strong for a match against old man Shane McMahon.
Shane McMahon is, if he was a video game character, he'd be OP. He'd be like, what were the developers thinking?
Oh my gosh. But, you know, in hindsight, you know, it was just kind of to like settle. It's funny to say settle things down because the past matches haven't really built up much, you know, at least from a crowd perspective. But I'm kind of glad that the first half was kind of because that's what made this second half really good. Because next we get Rollins versus Nakamura.
Mm-hmm.
And
not for a belt, not for anything, but for respect, Jack.
For respect for his former tag partner Cesaro.
By the way, Jack, get this. Do you know what other matches on tonight's card dealt with respect?
I believe Sheamus and Drew McIntyre was also one about respect.
Okay.
And that's about it.
I think Reigns is sort of demanding a certain respect, right?
Oh, yeah, that one too, yeah.
So I made that list. I'm like, how many matches are sort of grounded in respect, like Seth is here? And then the ones that aren't about respect, they're about friends. You had Banks and Bianca. You had Biggie and Apollo. They said it in the pre-show. They used to be friends. And then you had Drew and Sheamus. Basically, a night of two stories being told multiple times.
Yeah. But, so what'd you think about this Rollins-Nakamura match?
It was good. I didn't write anything about it. I must have just been enjoying it that much.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same where, you know, there wasn't, like, necessarily, like, memorable, like, spots or moments. It was just a really good match between two, like, really good workhorses, you know?
Yeah.
And I was really happy to see Nakamura come out and shine like this because, you know, as everyone knows, kind of as he gets up there in age, you know, he's not going to, you know, pull out a lot of matches like this every single time. So, and, like, I guess because he doesn't do it that much as on weekly, you know, TV, it pays off because now you get pay-per-view matches like this where he, essentially because he's conserving his energy weekly, he's able to bust out these performances like he did with Rollins, you know, for pay-per-view.
And, you know, this time last year, Kevin Owens was feuding with Rollins.
Oh, yeah.
And they ended the calendar year with Kevin Owens challenging for the Universal title a bunch of times. And I had that thought of Nakamura or Cesaro in this position with Rollins, and I really grew to appreciate Rollins in a way that I hadn't before. And I thought, gosh, if they come out looking real good out of this, who knows? Cesaro feasibly could be in that same position by December.
Yeah, you know, and I like that. That's like even in loss because you know Nakamura ends up losing this match, but you know it was a really good match, and you know both men looked really good in it. And the one memorable spot from it was, or at least that was memorable to me, was like Nakamura, I believe, was like down on one knee, and so Rollins goes to kick him, but he ducks. But because Rollins held on to like Nakamura's leg because he like put his foot there to stop him, he's able to use the foot that he would have kicked him with, turn it back around and kick Nakamura when he wasn't expecting.
I know exactly the move you're describing based on you described it.
Yeah, it was towards the finish, so you know that part was just really memorable. And while I do agree with some people that the finish kind of fell flat, it was still a good match nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean it was just a curb stomp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a devastating move. It's protected.
Yeah, really good match. Really kind of similar to that gauntlet match early on this year. You know, let Nakamura shine.
Agreed.
And so then we move on to Drew versus Sheamus in a no-holds-barred match.
Right.
And as you mentioned, that video package, promo package was just really good. Really showed the build up for this match. Which, again, makes you think, obviously, you know, they needed a challenger for Bobby. So it made sense to put this match here. But, you know, if, let's say, you had someone else to challenge Bobby, this could have also been a Mania match.
You sure could have, absolutely.
Yeah, especially with that promo package. It was really good. And one thing I wish that they did with this match to make it even better and make it seem like more high stakes than just, you know, a battle between former friends was announce that whoever won the match would go on to challenge Bobby. Rather than just randomly announcing that Drew was going to face Bobby at Mania.
Right. Yeah, no. I mean, and if you know that Drew is going to challenge him, and you got a hunch that Drew's going to win this match, put those things together so that they all flow in a nice storyline of logic and reason and consequences.
Yeah, and that way, you know, you don't leave fans confused about, like, well, why is he getting the title opportunity?
Right.
What has he done? Because, like, obviously, you know, the main argument can be, well, Drew's been very consistent since the last year, keeping his wins up and everything.
Right.
But in the WWE, we're not, unlike, you know, like with AEW, where they keep track of wins and losses, WWE really doesn't, like, focus on wins and loss rates. So how are we supposed to acknowledge that, you know, their win rates or win percentages are what gets them a title shot?
They don't share that, Jack, because you'll never guess what their rates are.
Oh, I know.
Constantly. They all float around about 50-50.
Yeah. Or, you know, back in 2017, in the case of Jinder Mahal, he had, like, I think it was like a 3 or 8% win rate, and yet here he is challenging for the WWE title. And then winning.
I saw a picture of Vince McMahon with the VR headset on, and then the next picture, which is what you're supposed to assume he's watching, is Jinder Mahal celebrating his win over AJ Styles.
But so, really great match, and you know it was expected because they had a really good match on Raw, you know, and so it was expected to be a good match. But I really think that, you know, this kind of shows that WWE should kind of slowly stop doing like gimmick pay-per-views. Because when you bust them out for feuds or moments like this, it truly feels like it was deserved and that it finished a feud between the two of them, you know?
Agreed.
And even though it wasn't false count anywhere, I did appreciate, you know, or I did like that they went all around, you know? And like they really went all over the place, and that one spot where they're just fighting in the crowd, and then he just essentially like throws them into the LED board, and it just falls off and kind of explodes.
Yeah. And I also enjoyed the white noise into the announce table.
Oh yeah, that was really
that was a good one.
Yeah. And the funniest thing I saw was when the people saw that spot, they were saying, man, how do you think those people felt? You know, they were like, oh, look, there we are. And then as soon as they saw themselves on screen, boom, the screen with their face on it is gone.
Wow. You got to feel honored a little bit. You got to feel special.
But a really good no-holds-barred match, you know, and it's like, it really makes you think, like I said, like when it comes to like Hell in a Cell, ladder matches, Extreme Rules matches, stuff of that, how much better they would be if they weren't busted out so often, or in the case of
and how much better is it, Jack, that this was the one no-holds-barred match of the night, right? Yeah. It doesn't just make it special in comparison to like other events throughout the year, but it's the one match in this card that made that sort of scratched that itch, so to speak.
Yeah, you know, it's like the only case where, you know, the yearly thing kind of seemed okay was that little bit for like every year where they would do some type of ladder match at Mania to like get like obviously the high spots and get the crowd riled up, you know, for the event, especially if it was the opener. I thought that was really good, but like, you know, as we saw kind of this, or not last year, with Hell in a Cell, you know, having 3 in one night, and how WWE ended up having to create different type of styles for each one to so that it didn't seem repetitive. But then it came back to bite them because, as we discussed, two of those felt like they didn't even need the cell.
Right.
One of them could have simply been a no-holds-barred match, and the other could have just simply been an I Quit match.
So good on these two for putting on the show that they did, putting their bodies on the line, and both of them are, especially Sheamus, pale enough for you to see all them kendo stick shots across the back.
And, I saw a lot of people kind of upset, but because of the two men's character, it made sense. People were kind of upset that Sheamus and Drew were already back the next night, but because of how, both characters are, with...
They're hard.
Yeah, they're these brutal European men who, essentially, with Sheamus and Drew, it's like they've clawed and scratched their way through this company, so of course they're going to be back the next night.
Of course they're going to be back the next night.
And especially for Drew, seeing through the pandemic era, how even after every pay-per-view match Drew went through, he was there the next night. It makes sense. It isn't a case of no selling. It's a case of that's how tough these guys are for their character build,
Yeah. How much time we got, Jack?
About 3 minutes.
Oof.
So
we got a bit to talk about.
Yeah, so I think we'll cut it short here just so we can immediately go into the next episode rather than trying to fill 3 minutes on here.
Sounds good.
So we'll cut it here. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Join us for the next episode where we discuss Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss and Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns in the main event for the Universal Championship with Edge as the special enforcer. Tune in to the next episode.